All right, welcome to the Kickback. We have just seen Manchester United and Chelsea draw 1 apiece at Old Trafford. It was Bruno Fernandes from the penalty spot who gave Manchester United the lead with 20 minutes to go after a rather scrappy first 70 minutes that preceded it. Chelsea only had to wait 4 minutes before they were level through Moises Caicedo. Myself and Keith watched that one. Keith, overall, it would seem as if a point each was the correct result.
Possibly, yeah. I think both teams weren't at their best in terms of the final third. Chelsea, you would throw that a little bit more, given how many talented boys they have in their team. I think Palmer was okay in terms of linking the play, but in terms of being that threat, in terms of scoring the goal, wasn't quite there. Although he huffed and puffed. Pedro Neto the same. Rashford, yeah, he had a volley that he hit the crossbar with, but generally not really at the races again, which is a big worry for Manchester United. But what I liked about Højlund is his physical attributes. When that ball gets fired into him, he's keeping the two Chelsea centre-halves at bay. He's bringing Garnacho into the game, he's bringing Rashford into the game, and balls into the box. He's affecting what the two Chelsea centre-halves are doing. So I like Højlund. I think he can be something going forward under the new manager. But in terms of controlling the play and playing through midfield, I think there's massive question marks, and I think it gets a little bit worse before it gets better, because we all know Ruben Amorim is going to come in and he's going to demand that United play that way, and I don't see it going smoothly.
Yeah, either sides of Rasmus Højlund, obviously those wingers in Garnacho and Marcus Rashford, in terms of how they affected the play, they both had chances. Garnacho obviously laid on and had an effort that just went over the crossbar. He also had one. There was a pretty weak effort that was down the throat of Sanchez. But in terms of his overall contribution to the game, that seems to be something that's massively lacking from him.
Yeah, he seemed out of sorts. Like I referenced this in commentary in the first couple of minutes. Bruno Fernandes was on the left wing and he tried a big diag to get cut out, and Garnacho's looking back at Rashford. This is the captain of the football club, and he's shrugging his shoulders at him, saying, "What was that?" And Bruno Fernandes is doing exactly the same back. And it wasn't until the last couple of minutes of the game, Garnacho loses the ball again. Casemiro has to come across and give away a foul and picks up a yellow card, and he absolutely loses the head of the young man. And that should have happened in the first couple of minutes, because Garnacho's performance for me within the 90 minutes didn't really look too interested in terms of running around.
Safety first seemed to be
the constant, first, and so often you got Reece James in a left back position, in a right back position, Gusto 1v1, and he's turning it down. He needs to be running at people. Success for wingers like Garnacho is getting in 1v1 situations, and so often he turns it down. And when you think he's the one who scored 2 goals in this Manchester United team, nobody else has scored that amount of goals in the Premier League for Manchester United, so he should have some sort of confidence, but looked as low as a snake's belly at times. And Rashford on the other side, I think he's looking at the likes of Fernandes, he's looking at Casemiro, who was fairly one pace and plods around, and you're looking at the desire of Marcus Rashford on the other side, and that's seeping into the young man, which is something that should not happen.
It was United though who took the leads. I don't think Chelsea can have many complaints about the penalty conceded by Robert Sanchez. It was a clear enough foul on Rasmus Højlund, and again it shows what Højlund can offer in that forward position.
Yeah, and again, like I can bring it back to listening to the old Manchester United players, the new pundits, when they're talking about United have to play this style of play, they have to play this modern style of football. Casemiro gets the ball out of his feet, flicks one over the top for Højlund, and they win a penalty kick. I don't understand why you shy away from something you're good at, and when you've got a focal target like Højlund, the ball over the top from Casemiro is inch perfect. It's brilliant. The first touch from Højlund is excellent, sucks Sanchez out to him, gets his big toe onto it, wins the penalty kick, and then you're thinking, right, can United now be defensively solid and keep Chelsea at bay? And a couple of minutes later, Caicedo goes and gets the equaliser.
Yeah, it was a corner ultimately that was headed clear only as far as Moises Caicedo. His right-footed shot went through the legs of Mikhailo Mudryk, the substitute, who managed to dodge it pretty expertly and passed Onana in the goal. It was no more than Chelsea deserved, because they did boss possession, they did boss the tempo of the play. They were the ones who mostly dictated terms throughout the course of the 90.
Yeah, I would echo that. I thought Chelsea were much the better team. I think United will be happier with the draw than Chelsea will be, just given how the game went. But there wasn't an awful lot in it. I do look at on paper and you look thinking Chelsea should go to Old Trafford and win. And if Chelsea, a lot of people are saying, look, Champions League football could even jump into the title race. I'm not so sure. I think Enzo Maresca has done an incredibly good job so far. I've used words like unmanageable, chaotic. He seems to be really, really blunt, and he's told people where they stand within the club. And on the pitch, they seem to be getting a little bit of a reaction. But if they start losing games with the amount of talent that they have off the pitch, it can become a problem. But so far, they look defensively really good, and they seem to be able to just jump on the end of that Champions League race.
Would they have been better served with Cole Palmer being further forward than he did operate today?
Yeah, possibly, but I do think Cole Palmer was coming deeper to try and suck Ugarte and Casemiro towards him, and once they come out of that space, he's going to go in behind to exploit it. But so many times, you know, I look at Ugarte, I look at Casemiro, when you're thinking legs, you need legs in there. And I know I keep harping on about it. Scott McTominay going the opposite way to Napoli, you're thinking that's what you need in there, legs, somebody who'll stick the foot in. Ugarte is somebody who's a very, very good defensive midfielder. You look at Casemiro, his best days are behind him, but he was known as a very good defensive midfielder. When he had the likes of Modric and Toni Kroos at Real Madrid, they were the ones who did the attacking stuff, and he did the donkey work at the back. Now, you know, you have two donkeys in the middle. They need people like that to go and break the game up, but when they win it, they don't really have anybody to say, there's that killer pass. And look, Casemiro's capable of it, but in terms of doing it over a season and getting you up into the top 4, top 6, I'm not so sure.
And Chelsea, by contrast, probably do have more mobile midfielders in similar positions. We saw Caicedo with Lavia a little bit today, perhaps not as well as Caicedo, and then being able to bring a World Cup winning £100 million midfielder off the bench in Enzo Fernandez. Yeah,
we referenced that early doors. Manchester United's bench just looks so weak. You look at Xerxes, there's massive question marks over the young man. I don't think we can go either way on him just yet. It's still too early to talk. And then the young man Amad Diallo coming on again is somebody I really, really like, but you know, you'd really want somebody who coming on who knows how to score goals, been into deep water with Manchester United, and there's so many youngsters on the bench. You're looking at Ugarte giving foul after foul after foul, and you're thinking you need somebody else in there, and he's bringing in Victor Lindelof. And look, it didn't make a big difference towards the end because Lindelof was just told go in there and make sure Palmer doesn't make too much of a difference. But in terms of being a team going forward and getting somebody to play, I think Manchester United, like a lot of teams in the Premier League, are really lacking that quarterback.
We'll have United's game against Leicester next Sunday. Will be the last that they have before Ruben Amorim arrives. With that squad at his disposal, with the fact that they had 3 17-year-olds potentially making their debuts off the bench today, none of them came on obviously, but with that squad that they have, what's the best that Amorim and United fans can hope for between now and the end of the season? Or that Ipswich game, I should say, in the end of the season, really.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I don't think they're good enough to get into the Champions League. I can name probably 6, 7 teams that are better than Manchester United within the Premier League. That's not to say that United can't finish 4th, 5th, 6th, you know. They can do that, but for me, there's an awful lot more teams with better weapons at their disposal than Manchester United. So I think Manchester United fans, when Ruben Amorim comes in, if he gets them that little bit more defensively solid, probably makes 1 or 2 decent signings in January, which, you know, the board, for all the things we said about how Manchester United ran off the pitch, they really did back Erik ten Hag in terms of finances. So they might be a little bit gun shy in terms of releasing funds to Ruben Amorim, but you would imagine that just getting his style of play, because, you know, Unai Emery, I know United fans are roaring at me about Unai Emery, but he came in roughly the same time as Erik ten Hag, and you look at where Aston Villa are at this moment in time, and not just where they are in terms of the Champions League, being top of the Champions League and playing in the Champions League, their style of play, the DNA, how they go about it, all those things, you pretty much know what you're getting from Villa. Yeah. Whereas we spoke today before the game, Richie, and we're thinking we've no idea what we're going to get from United.
On the other side of things, were Chelsea a bit toothless up top? Jackson didn't really offer that much. His runs were lacking, didn't have any major chances fall his way. I don't know if he's the kind of guy to lead a line on his own for a club like Chelsea.
Yeah, it's a difficult one, because when you do look at him, you think there's a little bit lacking. Chelsea could probably go out and do a little bit better in the transfer market, but 6 goals and 3 assists already in the Premier League is not a bad return. But of course, people will argue it's a Chelsea team that makes chance after chance. Not so much today against United, but generally they make an awful lot of chances. And he's managed to take a few of the young man, but there was once or twice when Chelsea are up high up the pitch, they nick the ball, they give it to him, and you think, go on, make something happen. And like you say, Richie, toothless is a really good word for Chelsea. And you can throw that at Chelsea, not so much about United, because they were going from back to front a little bit more A to B, and you know they huffed and puffed, but Chelsea, yeah, not quite at the races in terms of their attacking players.
All right, 1-1 is how it finished at Old Trafford. Manchester United 1, Chelsea 1. We will have Ruud van Nistelrooy's final home game in interim charge of Manchester United next week on Off the Ball. For now, Keith, thank you.
Cheers, Rich.